Thank you for joining us. I'm pleased to say a lot is happening worldwide to address the present challenges actually facing everyone in the world, with new discoveries and treatments and the means and technology to reduce the COVID-19 risks. So I'm more optimistic than ever that we'll overcome this unprecedented time in history of pandemic and economic crisis. We intend to continuously keep you informed with impartial, scientifically validated updates and solutions from every possible source, with new reports and developments coming all the time, and we'll continue following these messages.
Life Extension magazine brings you new discoveries in health and anti-aging. Our science-based research and supplements are so advanced they're many years ahead of the medical mainstream, with quality control standards that exceed FDA mandates. Life Extension has covered groundbreaking medical research for more than 35 years. For your health and future, you deserve the best. Learn more at lifeextension.com.
With us now is Dr. Sandra Kaufmann. Sandra, it's a real pleasure to meet you. And even though it's terribly politically incorrect in this insane year of 2020 with coronavirus and all the other catastrophes, is it okay for me to shake your hand and greet you, or should I?
It would be a pleasure.
Thank you, dear. Well, God bless us all. And doctors like you are the big hope. You're the heroes in this crazy world to find solutions and alleviate the terrible suffering that so many people are suffering from all over the world at this time. So I'm glad you're here.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
So what are your thoughts, actually? Why are they making such a big issue of one catastrophe, but actually somewhat downplaying and understating the horrors of drug addiction and people, thousands of people and families ruined because of opioids, and of course the regular flu? This is a tragedy as well.
That is an excellent opening question, and that's a huge question. We've been battling the opioid crisis for many, many years, and I spent many years as a pain physician treating children, and they have really cracked down on opioids, so they really are fighting the war, and I really think that they are actually making progress. We don't see it as much in the news because it's sort of old hat, and people don't want old hat. They also don't think that that's going to happen to them, so it's not as personal. In terms of the flu, we all know you're supposed to get your flu vaccine every year, and people do die of the flu in mass quantities every year. But it's sort of, again, it's old hat, and people sort of have heard it, and they don't really want to hear it again. Versus the coronavirus, it's new. I don't want to say glamorous because that sounds pretty horrible, but it's on everyone's mind. It's new, anyone can get it. It affects people that are all over the globe, old people, some young people. You don't really know how it's going to affect you, so it's just very interesting to everyone at this point in time.
And some people say it's just not useful in the political situations we're witnessing in this country at this time to talk about the other truths, such as the other challenges facing humanity in this country and elsewhere.
There are issues facing humanity everywhere, everywhere. No one talks about child abuse. No one talks about, human trafficking. No one talks about toxicities from the food we eat. We sort of do, but we sort of brush it under the carpet as well. Coronavirus is something that everyone can get behind because we didn't create it, and I don't want to, throw the Chinese under the bus by any means, but it's something new. We can all be against it. We can all pull together and try to do the right thing to get over it. There's no pros, there's no cons. It's just what it is. Versus the opioid crisis, for example. You could argue that big pharma is going to get hurt. Some people, because people do have pain. So there are needs in different categories. And so coronavirus is popular. It's new. It threatens everyone. So it's the thing to talk about right now.
Sounds so cynical in a sense somehow. But of course, it has to be addressed, and bright people such as yourself and others need to find solutions, not only for the coronavirus, but so many other ills that are affecting our world. Even more frightful to me, actually, is how the economy worldwide has been so vastly affected. It's kind of incredible.
Ooh, that's a touchy one. I tend to be a little bit outspoken, so I should probably watch what I say. But in a sense, I really kind of think it's a shame that we crashed the global economy to save people from the coronavirus, because everything has pros and cons. So I think that people are not looking at the hidden cost of the virus. Everyone talks about how many people are getting ill and who's getting hospitalized and what the mortality rate is. But people are not looking at the details. For example, working at a hospital, we're seeing a rise in domestic violence. Children are getting hurt because parents are unemployed, there's stress about money, finances, insurance, all of that sort of thing. On top of that, people are losing their businesses. People that have worked generation after generation to have restaurants or stores or whatever it is that makes up our smaller economies, and it's disappearing. So I think that we need to sort of come up with a better balance between protecting the community from the disease, but also protecting individuals from the unseen issues.
Yeah, the unseen, unanticipated consequences of this very, very strange situation. What I find deplorable is how different individuals are politicizing and using it to play mind games on the public, which I think is totally immoral and horrific, but that's just my thought. By the way, this is a first interview I've done in my home since this coronavirus situation has occurred, and I'm honored to have Dr. Sandra Kaufmann here with me, and this is really a unique situation. So I'd like to ask you about the Kaufmann protocol.
So the Kaufmann protocol is based on the idea that we can stop aging in a very simple sense. And the reality is we can't really stop aging, but we can decelerate it significantly. And one of the things that I like to tell people straight up is that it's not crazy. This is not something that people can laugh at, chuck it off, etc. The idea of the Kaufmann protocol is to increase longevity and increase health span. And what's kind of neat about this at the same time is that people that are on the Kaufmann protocol seem to be doing very well fighting coronavirus. Because we optimize cell health, we can also optimize your immune status. So we're just making people feel better and just do better overall.
This is very interesting, Sandra, and actually our main sponsor, Life Extension, is constantly involved with anti-aging, and these are the latest magazines, as you probably know. I believe you know Bill Faloon well, and they're really in the forefront of research with regard to anti-aging.
Life Extension is really just an amazing company. And Bill is an amazing leader of that company. And he really just has people's health in the main focus of his existence, really. He doesn't want to age or be unhealthy, and he wants the rest of the world to benefit from what he can do. And he really has brought together some fantastic researchers, and they create products that are really very useful and amazing. I'm on their board just because I think they're really, really fabulous, and I'm trying to help them sort of organize some of their scientific studies to make sure that everything gets done according to the way it should be, so that everything's sort of accurate and usable. But I think it's just a tremendous company, and the effort that they're putting forth can just benefit all of us.
I utilize their supplements, and I read Bill's articles right here, and it's all very interesting, absolutely fascinating. And the trouble he's had with the FDA, unfortunately, and again, politics, all of the backstabbing and tripping up. What a shame. I wish the world was more intelligent and people would just address issues and challenges in a civilized, intelligent, useful approach so that things could be implemented intelligently.
That's a very nice wishful thought. It just doesn't work that way.
No, unfortunately not. Tell us more about your protocol.
So the protocol is very easy. It's based on the idea that your cells age for 7 basic reasons. And people that are into longevity know that other people have created similar lists. Some are longer, some are shorter. But the basic idea is, as I decided that everyone can remember 7 things. There's always the 7 pillars of everything. So I went with the 7 pillars of aging. And I was a cell biologist a very long time ago, so I love cells. I'm amazed by their sort of intricate little things that they do. But because you age for 7 reasons, I decided that in order to stop aging, you had to attack each of those 7 reasons pretty much evenly. Otherwise, you are still going to age. And it sort of varies from things like protecting your DNA. Your DNA changes over time. Your telomeres shorten, you get epigenetic modifications. Your mitochondria, your energy organelles, they start failing over time for very specific reasons. A lot of cellular processes, we know what happens, and the good news is we have a good idea how to stop it. The other thing I did is that a lot of these agents that people take do many things in many different categories. So I created a rating scale so that it tells you exactly what it does in each of the 7 categories. And we create sort of algorithms and charts for people so that they can figure out how they would most benefit from taking all of the molecular adjuvants.
Fascinating, an area I am not particularly well versed in at all, but really fascinating. I love science and everything that you deal with. I'd like to ask you to share with our audience, please, a little with regard to your background and what you are currently doing at the Joe DiMaggio Children's Hospital.
Absolutely. So the Joe DiMaggio Children's Hospital is a fantastic children's hospital. It is located in Hollywood, Florida, which is not far from here. I am the chief of pediatric anesthesia there. I have been there, oh my goodness, probably 18-ish years. I've been the chief for about 8 years. It's just a tremendous place to be. We take care of incredibly sick kids. Every possible type of physician is there. They recruit from all around the world. It's an amazing place to be.
Tell us about your background, if I may.
Oh, absolutely. So I started life as a tropical ecologist, which doesn't really do a whole lot except it makes for good stories at dinner parties. I used to stomp around in the jungles of Costa Rica chasing bats and bugs and all sorts of crazy things. Once upon a time, I even discovered a dispersal mechanism for a tropical species. That was kind of fun. I went to grad school to be a tropical ecologist and ended up migrating into the cellular biology field, where I spent many, many years studying cells under electron microscopes, and that's where my cell background comes from. I realized that cells don't pay bills. So my dad, who was an endocrinologist, said, you know, if you go to med school, I'll pay for it. And voila, I went to med school. So I went to med school at the University of Maryland. I was going to be a general surgeon, so I went to Baylor. I thought about brain surgery, so I went to Jackson in Miami. And then I thought, yeah, this is all kind of ridiculous. I think I will be an anesthesiologist, so I ended up at Johns Hopkins. I stayed to do pediatrics. I absolutely loved it. And then came down here to Joe DiMaggio, where I've been ever since.
What an absolutely incredible resume, fantastic. And being an environmentalist, I knew there was something about you, Dr. Kaufmann, that was intriguing and extremely impressive. Because I think we live in a very delicate planet and we should care about the environment everywhere and find intelligent solutions and proudly support life and enable species and all sorts of other creatures like myself to coexist. And not live at the expense of nature, but live in harmony with nature. So I really salute you for that. That's absolutely incredible and amazing. So you're a healer of the earth and of children. That's absolutely amazing. And working with regard to longevity, very impressive. A thought comes to mind that your background and what you do today are kind of diametrically opposed. Please share that with us.
So in today's hospital world, everything is used once and then thrown away. There's tremendous pressure not to recycle. And it drives up healthcare costs, and it does a variety of things, and everyone yells safety, safety, safety. However, I'm a firm believer in recycling and reusing equipment. So I'm kind of a thorn in the side of some of the hospital systems because they want us to use non-recyclable equipment. But I just think it's the wrong thing to do for the environment. So if it's a little extra work and a few extra pennies, we do it the right way.
Absolutely, and the oceans are filled with plastic. It's horrific.
It is astronomically terrible. And a few years ago, we started recycling in the operating rooms. And hopefully we will continue to do that, because there's just a lot of things that we can do to help the planet while maintaining the high degree of sterility and expertise that our hospital has.
This brings me to think about an item I have on my table here, which is a nanotechnology mask engineered by scientists in Israel recently. It's called the Synoviatech mask, and I have one here for you. And the nice thing about it is it kills most everything, bugs that is, viruses on contact, and you can wash it gently and it'll last for 6, 7, 8 months. So you don't have to create a landfill by discarding one-time use masks. So I'd like you to take this one with you and evaluate it. Maybe your hospital might like it. Tell us more about recycling and environmental responsibility.
Well, I just think it's absolutely important. We've all seen the horrors of the plastic buildup. We're all aware that there's global warming, and we all need to contribute. So not even just at the hospital, but just in personal life. We must recycle grocery bags. We must donate instead of throwing away. We've got to come together as a community, because I understand that everyone's worried about coronavirus, but I would venture to guess that a greater threat to humanity is just not treating the planet well.
Sandra, I was thinking that many of our viewers are terrified of what's going on right now. Maybe also because the media is hyping it up even more than many other tragedies that occur in history. But people are also lazy and don't know really what to do to enhance or protect their health. Like, I take 1 metformin pill per day just because I was told it's good for me, and vitamin C from life extension and other stuff. What would you suggest our viewers should do?
The easiest thing to do is what conveniently you're already doing. Metformin is one of my absolute favorite drugs, and I'm going to give you a list of reasons why. Number one, it's dirt cheap. No one's making a whole lot of money out of it. It's been around for 50 some years. It's fantastic. The side effects are extremely low. You get a little GI upset for a week or so and then you're fine. But the number of things that it can do in terms of longevity is just simply amazing. On top of lowering your blood sugar, changes your microbiota, it even changes the micropores of your mitochondria to make them better and live longer. There are just so many things that metformin can do to help you. It's just truly amazing. The dose is wide. You can take anywhere from 500 milligrams once a day to up to 2,000 for a day. Downsides is that it's a partial mTOR inhibitor, which isn't going to mean too much to most people, but it does over the course of time block you from making a lot of muscle. So I tell people to take leucine, which is a branched chain amino acid, at the same time to sort of make the muscle effect sort of go away to a certain degree. The other thing I tell people that are more athletic is to take it at night, so that while you're exercising and muscle building during the day, you're not going to offset that by taking metformin at the very same time. So there's sort of intricacies to taking metformin, but I would encourage most people over the age of 40, regardless of diabetic status, to talk their interns into giving it to them.
What else, Sandra?
So many things. If you want to at the same time work on longevity and the coronavirus, there's a wonderful thing called quercetin. It's an agent that comes from onions, so it's all natural, as one might say, but of course it's sort of produced because you can't eat that many onions. In terms of longevity, it helps get rid of senescent cells, and senescent cells are these old cells. I call them grumpy old men cells. I think some people call them zombie cells. They're normal cells that become pathologic from DNA changes, and they just emit cytokinins and inflammatory issues that sort of make you age faster. So quercetin can actually help get rid of some of those cells, and that's extremely beneficial. At the same time, it also blocks effects of the coronavirus. So you get a twofer on that one, and that's fantastic. And the other one that's my absolute favorite is curcumin. Curcumin is not only delicious because it comes from turmeric, but if you take a type, and of course they sell it at Life Extension, but if you get a bioavailable curcumin, it blocks aging, And it blocks the systemic effect of cytokinins. So if you do happen to get coronavirus, the effects will be minimized because you're blocking all of the systemic inflammatory factors.
I'd like to ask you a little bit about people's concern with regard to what they can do to protect their health, protect themselves in this day and age of all of these coronavirus fears. I know that there are medical professionals such as yourself, researching scientists and so forth, and of course even people inventing things such as the Synovia Tech mask, which is designed not only to keep you safer, but it actually kills viruses on contact. What are your thoughts with regard to preventative measures such as these? What can people do to responsibly protect themselves?
So there are many ways to protect oneself from the coronavirus. There's short-term things you can do, and then of course there's long-term things you can do. So in the short term, you need to wear a mask, and you don't want to, this is horrible to say, you don't want to spit on people, and you don't want to have them spit on you. That's essentially how a lot of respiratory viruses spread. So you're not just protecting yourself from coronavirus, you're protecting yourself from many other viruses as well. The other thing to note, it is an encapsulated or an enveloped virus. It's an RNA positive, it's a very large RNA capacity, but it is encapsulated, which means that regular soap and water kills the virus. So people don't have to go nuts with the antibacterial soap, and I know people love that stuff, but honestly soap and water is better because you don't want to get rid of the bacteria that's on your skin, because that bacteria is actually protecting you from many other pathogens in the environment. So those are the two things that people can do acutely. Social distancing, obviously, if you're away from people, you are less likely to become infected. But then there's long-term things you need to think about. For example, why did this virus start attacking people that were older? Well, it's because cells and tissues decline over the course of time. People that are younger that have comorbidities have been affected because obviously they've got comorbidities, which means their cells aren't acting as well as they could either. In addition, the population that is overweight has been horrifically affected. And the reason that happens is because fat tissue puts out a lot of inflammatory factors. And once you have a virus, coronavirus or any other virus, that sets off a systemic inflammatory process, you have magnified the number of inflammatory cytokinins that get put out. So your outcome is significantly worse. So in the long-term strategy, you want to stay as healthy as possible. You want to start a longevity program, and you don't want to be overweight.
That's very interesting news, because I myself have been using these gels thinking that was the best thing, when actually soap and water are better. Interesting. I'd like to ask you, with regard to the mountain of waste and pollution and all that's caused by non-recyclables. This mask, for example, one can wash and use it for nearly a year and it'll be fine. Tell us about the implications of all of the throwaway PPE and so forth.
It is absolutely horrific. We don't reuse that much PPE at all because the FDA and the CDC tell us not to. I will tell you that because of the significant shortage in hospitals, it does get reprocessed to some degree, still within limits of safety. But the amount of materials that get thrown away is absolutely, it's egregious. And I understand that there are safety concerns and people want their PPE. At the same time, this is another one of the unmentionable costs of the virus.
The terrible pollution and waste. What final message would you like to share with our audience before we conclude our brief little interview here today?
Well, I guess because I'm a longevity specialist over being anything else, I want people to know that you just need to take care of yourself, your family, the ones that you love, be as healthy as possible, because it doesn't only limit the infectivity of coronavirus, but it'll lower your risk of becoming ill in any other way as well.
Sandra, this has been so informative. Thank you very much. And again, I say we have to have you on regularly, because you just present things in a way that even tired, lonely individuals, self-quarantined as myself, can actually comprehend what you're saying. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
I'll be right back.
Somewhere along the line, I think it's happened now, We've never seen the FDA react the way it has now. Trump has caused this to happen. He's now said, I want to see action. I want to see things on a market that you never would have approved before, and I want to see it quickly. And we're seeing these things happening in COVID, especially where the FDA is approving it at levels we've never seen before. You've never seen this before, where in a matter of a weeks or months, the FDA is now approving something that normally they would look at for 10 years, or it would take forever to get done. So I think that one of the only good things that are coming out of COVID, the only good thing, is that the FDA has now changed the way they look at products, the way they look at treatments, and maybe it has taught them that, you know what, if you save 10 million lives and you lose 2, those odds are pretty good. Those odds are good. It makes sense to me. And we have to see more of that, and I think you will see more of it. I'm happy about what Trump did on deregulation in this area, especially in the FDA.
It certainly has helped significantly, and I think the COVID crisis, yes, has spurred doctors even to realize there are drugs in a hospital formulary that they can legally use as repurposed medications and get tremendous clinical outcomes. And the FDA themselves, of course, are just saying, we're not going to stand in the way because it's now politically incorrect to deny a COVID patient an experimental therapy because their rates of morbidity and mortality so high. And as you know, the COVID patients who recover, some of them have lifelong organ damage, heart failure, scarred lungs, kidney dialysis retreatments. They're unfortunately in pretty bad shape, some of the severe ones that even get better. So it's critical that these repurposed medications be more widely utilized. And the good news is they are. It just depends on what hospital you go in, though. It's illegal for the drug makers to promote these drugs for COVID disease, but the doctors are legally allowed to use them off purpose. And what our Life Extension group does is we have a special website that doctors can go to and read about repurposed medications. We don't sell any of these, by the way, but we can legally inform frontline doctors on how to use these medications without us getting in trouble or the drug company getting into trouble. So yes, we are making incredible progress, but more needs to be done.
We'll try to get a hold of your Life Extension. You ought to send something to me, okay? I'd like to see your publications.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care. Look forward to meeting you.
Yes, please.
No, take care.
This concludes our special show for today from South Florida. I'm Richard Perrett, and on behalf of all of us here, thank you for being with us.